In the world of cybersecurity, it's always Linux this or Linux that. If you want to do malware analysis, Remnux. If you want to do penetration testing, Kali Linux. But what if you want to work inside of Windows? On today's episode of Cyber Studies, we're going to set up FlareVM in a Windows environment. Let's go. Welcome to Cyber Studies. If this is your first time here, my name is Giovanni. Thank you so much for watching. FlareVM is a Windows distribution that is packed with essential tools for malware analysis, network forensics, and incident response. The best part is it's entirely free and can be installed on any virtual machine running the Windows operating system. So in this video, we're going to go step-by-step walkthrough on preparing the virtual machine to actually setting up and configuring the entire environment. So when everything is said and done, you'll have a fully functional environment you can use and capture the flag events or even real-world cybersecurity research. So the absolute first thing we need to do is establish our requirements for this project. We are going to be hosting a hypervisor solution on our host machine, and we need to allocate the appropriate amount of resources so our operating system can run smooth as possible. Now, we do have a couple videos that do go to great lengths explaining how to set these up, but the long story short of it is that we basically need to allocate a lot of RAM, hard drive space, and CPU to make this, as smooth as possible. So once we do have all those things set up, and you can follow those videos listed in the description, we can then move to getting our Windows 10 or 11 operating system. Now, technically you could use an older version of Windows. Just know that it's not going to be identical in the sense of steps and how to set this up. The newer versions do have built-in defense solutions that could kind of mess things up. So just know that when you're doing Windows 10 or 11, it's gonna be very similar to this video. Whereas if you have an older version, you may do things as a little bit different. Just your miles may vary, very similar in nature. So once we have our hypervisors set up, we can then start digging into our base image of Windows 10 or 11. So we're gonna go to the actual Microsoft website. And right here, this is going to show the updates for your current host machine if you wanted to go that route. Today, we're actually going to go down to the bottom where it says Windows 11 disk image. So this is your ISO file that we're going to use and we're going to put into our hypervisor. So we're going to go through here and select the multi-edition ISO for 64-bit devices. And we are going to go ahead and start that download. So it's going to validate and take some time to crunch through, verify that we're not just pulling this automatically. We are going to use the language of our choice. And once this is all said and done and has finished downloading, we are going to be crunching through some more requirements. So for FlareVM to work effectively, we are going to need a copy of Windows, yes. We're going to need PowerShell, which is natively installed. We're going to need about 60 gigabytes for our virtual machine, so everything is working properly. We will actually have to disable some of the protective measurements, so things like Windows Defender and the auto updates. Now, why this is important is because Windows Defender is actually going to read everything that we're doing as malicious in nature. It doesn't understand the use case that we're using this for. And so what we're going to do is we're going to install the Windows image, then we're going to install our suite as well as the configuration files that come with FlareVM that allows us to do our malware analysis and network forensics. So it's going to kind of read it as malicious in nature. Just know that everything's going to be fine. It's going to be hosted inside of your hypervisor. Everything's going to be segmented away from your home network. You're going to be setting pretty. Just understand that it's going to take some time to get this all set up, and once it's all ready to go, everything's gonna be nice and isolated. So now that our Windows image file has downloaded off their site, we're actually gonna launch our hypervisor. So tonight I'm using Workstation Pro. This is the VMware solution. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna create our new virtual machine and we're gonna point it at that ISO file. So wherever you save it, I actually moved mine to like a dedicated virtual machine folder. So we're gonna go ahead and select that. Our file selected there. Now with this, if I'm not mistaken, Windows 11 requires you to have a trusted module, a trusted processor module. So it may have to emulate that here. Yep. So our trusted platform module here is going to be something that's required. So you can just make up like a password. I'm just going to use the word password because I'm going to nuke this box once we are done with this demonstration. So once we have that set up there and it's going to save that credential for next time, we are going to allocate that 64 gigs that we talked about before. So it's saying 60 plus some of that, but What's nice about this hypervisor is it's going to allocate the space and only pull when needed, so it doesn't take up as much on your host operating system. So we're going to verify that everything's pointing to the correct place. In this instance, I'm going to be allocating 4 gigabytes of RAM with a NAT adapter configuration, and then we're going to be using just 2 cores on some of the other stuff there. So we're going to do that and just let it do its thing. So now it's going to create our virtual machine based off of the configuration that we provided it, off of the Windows 11 image that we pulled from the Microsoft site. Now, it's not necessarily important to have the actual operating system validated using like a serial code or anything like that. You could do that, but it is absolutely not required. Cool, okay. So now what it's doing is it's going to launch up our Windows 11 machine here. It's going through, it's crunching that that TPM requirement that we have, and it's launching up our first instance of Windows 11. Now with these, you'll kind of find that the initial installation, it takes quite some time. I think from start to finish, this whole thing is going to take anywhere between like 3 to 4 hours. But then after it's set up, you'll do your snapshot, and then you're good. After that, you're done. So you don't have to set this up every single time, 4 hours, you know, what have you. So let me see if I can make this as a smidge bigger here. And it probably won't let us because we don't have our drivers just yet. But we'll work through this together. So this is just like any other type you would set up Windows. Now there is something that we're going to have to do a little bit differently because we do not want to associate a Microsoft account with this. So it'll almost look like we repeat the process, but know that it is intentional. So we are going to set it up. We're going to get to a certain point. We're actually going to bypass the network so we don't have to put our Windows Microsoft account to it, reinstall it again, and it'll let us bypass it. Just trust the process. So we are going to set this up as we would normally. Do our install. It's going to go through and start doing its crunch. I do not have a product key. That's fine. With this, I just set up Windows 11 Pro. I don't think it really matters. I think that's more of like a user face and kind of stuff on the back end there. I do accept whatever that says. We're just going to do an install there. We're going to select our virtual, the 64 gigs that we allocated for this project. We're going to set that there. We're going to select new partition. We're going to apply all of that. I selected that, so we're going to hit next. And now it's going to start crunching.
1 hour later.
Rolling. Yeah, honestly, the most difficult thing about this entire project is just patience. This takes forever to set up. A lot of it is just crunching. We're installing an operating system, then we're going to modify that operating system. So a lot of it is pretty much start it up and then wait. Start it up and then wait. So make sure you have a nice drink or some snacks because this is going to take quite some time. All right, gonna do a little reset here. Just gonna shut it down, bring it back up. Yeah, I mean, and it's no different whether you're using VirtualBox or VMware, you know, Proxmox, whatever you're using. Same. All right, so looks like it's crunched through its Windows Boot Manager. We are actually like in the operating system now. So right now it's just kind of going through, it's preparing itself. If you've never done a Windows installation, it takes a hot minute, but I think we are almost there. Alrighty, we are in there. All right. Okay, so now we're just going to set this up as we would with any other, ordinary Windows installation. So we're going to select where we're from.
Now, the idea here is that we're going to set this up as a forensics box. We don't want a lot of information pointing back to us as individuals. So we want to keep this as vanilla as possible. Now, what's going to happen is we're going to be prompted to connect to a internet connection where we can then associate our Microsoft account. I kind of mentioned earlier in the recording here, but more or less it's going to try to do its thing, and it's going to say, hey, you know, we need access to this stuff. So while it's crunching, we're going to go into our settings, and I probably should have did this before. And then we're going to go into our network adapter, and then we're going to change that segmentation to something that is just offline. So it's going to freak out here in a second. It's going to be like, oh no, we don't have internet connection. What gives? So as expected, we're now presented with our network connection here. And the unfortunate problem is that Microsoft wants you to press forward. They want you to connect. They want you to get the most up-to-date, operating system, which we actually got from the site. It's not that big of a deal. But then they also want you to connect your Microsoft account. So if you hold, I believe it's Shift F10, while selected in your hypervisor, you're going to be presented with your CMD shell. And it's out of the box experience. Oh, I gotta click on my thing there. Out of the box experience / we're going to bypass the network requirement option right there. So what's going to happen? It's going to say, whoa, okay, let's try that again without internet requirements. So now it's going to go through, it's going to crunch again. It's going to do the exact same stuff again. It's going to ask us to do our keyboards again. But this time it's going to say, hey, if you don't have internet connectivity, there's a little option at the bottom now. It's going to allow us to do that. This is used for like store demos if you wanted to see something at like Best Buy or Walmart or whatever. But something if you wanted to have a non-internet connection, a non-Microsoft attributed account, this is how you would do it. So it's just bypass, / NRO. So let's go here. Same exact thing as we saw before, but it's going to give us that new option now. Okay, so as expected, we're back there. Do the United States again. Skip. And towards the bottom down here, we should be now presented with a new option to actually skip the network. I do not have internet. See, now we go. Now we don't need that. Then we can't add our thing. So we're going to continue with our limited setup, oh no. And then it's going to let us just get all the way to the end here. So we're just going to keep it simple. Now, I believe there actually is a requirement when using Flare that we do not want to have any sort of spaces or anything. It needs to be one string. So I'm just going to do user one as like a generic placeholder. And then for password, I'm going to use the same one as I used before. It was password. Not good practice, but like again, I'm gonna nuke this box once I'm done with this video. So security questions, first name, password. What's the name of the city I was born from? Password. And then name of my oldest cousin. Password. And more or less, we're just racing to get to the end here where we actually have our Windows box up and running. We want to turn off all of our telemetry, all that stuff like that. We don't need any of it. Okay, so keep it nice and vanilla, as clean as possible. Now, I'm using just the image that comes off of the Microsoft site. You could probably find an image that is more optimized for things that are just like, hey, it's no bloatware, what have you. I find that having some of the stuff on there kind of makes it look a little bit more natural when it comes to these malware pieces that are virtual machine evasion kind of a thing. So your miles may vary. Do what you want to do. You can use different flavors of Windows, whatever you want. You don't have to use Windows 11 Pro. You don't have to do that. This is how I set it up. Just know that I leave it this way intentionally. Just once you do your base image, your base snapshot, that's how it's going to be moving forward. So you might see some LinkedIn, some other things on there. You just have to keep that in mind when you're doing your stuff. But I think it makes it look a little bit more believable, more like a human used machine as opposed to like a forensics box. I gotta tell you, I like you guys because I've never sat for an entire Windows installation. I usually just set it and forget it. So, you know, I like you. I like you that much. All right, cool. There we go. We have our image of Windows 11 up and running. Now, that was the easy part. I mean, debatably, everything in this whole tutorial is fairly simple. It's just very time consuming. So once we have the Windows image set up, I like to do a snapshot just to have like a pre-FlareVM snapshot, and then we kind of press forward. So we have our stuff here. It is still crunching, and it's going to be crunching for a minute, but we can go ahead and do that. We can, let's see here, open this up. Do I have it set up on this to where it can match resolution? And again, it's still crunching all of its stuff here, so it's going to be a little laggy for a second because it's doing all of its initialization stuff. Let's just open this up here. We're going to look for 1920 by 1080. This looks good. Do that. Cool. All right. So then let's do our snapshot here. So let's take our first snapshot. We'll just call this pre-FlareVM vanilla snapshot prior to FlareVM install. And I'm pretty liberal when it comes to these snapshots. Your miles may vary. Do what you want, but I'd rather have too many snapshots than not enough. And all this does, it saves the current state of this virtual machine. So we've set up the resolution on it, and it's after the machine has been installed. So this is as baseline as we want it. And then once we start doing some of our other stuff, you'll see I do snapshots along the way. So that way if something ever breaks, we can always revert back to a known good state. I'm going to grab myself a coffee. 1 second. All right, so now what we're going to be doing here is we're going to be going through, we're going to be setting up our actual vanilla Windows 11 VM to accept the tools, packages we're going to be installing here in a minute. So what we're going to be looking to do is we're going to be going through, we're going to do a pause on the Windows auto updates, make sure the system's not updating to a different version and overriding what we've been working on. We want to actually disable any sort of endpoint solution. So what we're going to be doing in VMware kind of looks suspicious in nature. We're monitoring network traffic. We're going through and we're, connecting these, processes, what have you. So Windows as a home user account is going to be thinking it's kind of suspicious in nature. We just want to disable it entirely. Don't even have to deal with it. So what we're going to do right off the rip here, we're just going to dig into our settings really quick. We'll just go this way. And we want to go into our updates. So just click into any of these here. Windows update settings. And then right here it says get the latest updates as soon as they're available. Off. There's a grayed out space for the paused stuff there. Dig into our advanced settings just to verify everything is turned off. So it is not going to auto update and mess up your package here. And then now we want to actually go through and disable Defender. Now, there's a couple different ways you can do this. You can actually go into your GPO and modify it that way. But we actually are going to just use a little GitHub repository. They have someone did a package. All right, cool. So we've navigated to the GitHub right here. This was updated in May. But what this is going to do here is it's going to just remove the stuff, and Windows is going to freak out, but that's okay. So we are going to, where's our stable copy here, Windows Defender Remover.exe. And so once we're going to download this, we're actually going to get a pop-up saying, hey, like, what's going on here? This is blocked. So we're actually going to dig into our settings here. We're actually going to keep it. Blah, 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 blah. Are you sure? We're going to keep it anyways. And it's going to go through and it's going to crunch and download that exe. So give it a second. There, cool. And then what do we got here? Let's open up our folder. I think it's the only thing we should have at this point. Okay, cool. And then what we're actually going to do is we're going to, again, disable our internet. We don't want Windows to try to reach back out and say, hey, something suspicious is going on here. Defender is being removed, you know, block removal of Defender. So we're going to disable our internet once more. Back into our settings. And again, I just like to just throw like a custom internet segment here. Cool. All right, so we lost our internet connection there. So then we're going to launch this as admin. It's going to give us our prompt. That's cool. We're going to run it. And it's just going to do its thing. It's going to go through. It's going to crunch in the background. It's going to remove any sort of dependencies that it's needed to keep this up and running. So it's just going to kind of get it going there. And then I think command prompt's going to do some wacky stuff here in a second. And then we should be sitting pretty. Yep, there it is. It's going to prompt us, you know, give us our best options here. So the option we're going to select is remove Windows Defenders, antivirus, and disable all security mitigations. And so make sure you plug in there. It's going to go through, remove its stuff, do its thing. It's probably going to wig out a little bit, and then we should be sitting pretty. Yep, and this would be kind of spooky if you're seeing this for the first time. So once this is all said and done, it's going to go through. It's crunching. It's removing all of its things, and once it's done, it's going to restart our computer here, our VM session. Cool. And so we're being prompted, and then we're going to hit any key there. It's going to go through and do its restart, and then once we have our session booted back up, we should not have any sort of Windows Defender product, any antivirus, what have you. So now that we've restarted our machine, we are now looking at a base Windows 11 image that we've disabled the updates and we've removed all antivirus endpoint detection, you know, solutions on there. So this is the ideal time to do a snapshot before we actually go through and do our tool installer. So we're going to go through here, do our snapshot at the top. Okay, and we'll just say pre-toolkit. We'll say prior to PS1 installer. Okay, so it's going to go through, it's going to take a snapshot. So then we're going to go through, we're going to re-enable our internet, and then we're going to go into an admin PowerShell, reach out, and then pull our tools down. And this is where it takes a long time. I believe this is the part that is the most time consuming of all the things. So, okay, so we've done our snapshot there. Let's just quick verify. Yep, so we have our pre-FlareVM, we have our pre-toolkit. Okay, so we are going to dig back into our settings. We are going to go into our network adapter. We are going to just set it up to NAT again. That is fine. Alrighty, we're going to look up our PowerShell. Right click that, run as admin. So I can enlarge that a little bit. Hopefully that's semi-legible. Okay, so then before we do anything, we're gonna do a git execution policy. And then we are restricted, so we're gonna do a execution. We're doing restricted, and then we're gonna do attack force. Okay, so we got that. Just one more. Policy. So we are now unrestricted. And so then now we are going to do our crazy installer script here. So give me 1 second. All right, so basically I took from my host machine over to my VirtualBox here, and I am going to be pointing our session, our admin shell here, to the GitHub repository. This is Mandiant's repository, where we're going to be pulling the FlareVM's install.ps1. So it's going to be moving it to our desktop. So everything should be there. Fire. And then it's going to be doing its thing in the background. And then we should see a new install. All right, cool. So we're going to then change our directory to desktop. List them out. There we go. And with that, folks, we are rocking and rolling. So this is going to say, hey, this is this particular version of Windows has not been tested because it is the newest one. You're welcome to continue, but may experience errors with downloading this particular thing. We are still going to proceed. And then now we are just going to wait. It has asked if we've taken a VM snapshot to ensure you can revert back to a pre-installation state. We have done that. We're going to put our password in there. And then now it's just going through. It's going to start downloading all of its dependencies. It's going to be downloading Chocolatey, all these different things. So while this is going through and crunching, I will pull up the Mandiant page that we did all of our steps from. Now, it is very thorough. They do walk you through all the different ways of doing this. So I will leave this in the description. Just know that it's going to be a little intimidating to kind of go through on your own because there are just a lot of things to do. So it walks you through literally where to get the installer PS1 from, all the stuff. So there is other ways you can do this if you wanted to. We're doing the PS1 version, but there's also a graphical user interface that we'll see eventually later on our installation. Just know there is a step-by-step, on the repository here. I'm just trying to make it a little bit easier to follow, walking along. And so we're now presented with that graphical user interface that was shown on their site. We're just going to leave it as is, just default settings and all this stuff. Go through. I'm going to try my best to cut the editing on this. So that way you're not just watching me try to fill, dead air. It's basically going to install some stuff, restart. And as long as you don't really interact with it, how it's programmed, it'll just pick up right where it left off. So it's actually a very respectable installer. So it's going to basically just keep going through and just rack and stacking. And you'll see on the corner down here, we do have a tools folder. And in this tool folder, it will start to populate with different categories, different tools. It'll start, adding all this stuff up. But you can kind of see along the way, this will get filled up with different things. So at the moment, it's still at its early stages of the install. But once everything is set up with the, Chocolatey framework, it's going to start, dumping them into that folder. The best way to know when everything is said and done is the wallpaper will change. And that's important because we have not authenticated, activated this instance of Windows. And so you can't change the wallpaper unless you do it this way. So again, we're gonna keep checking in here and there, but more or less we're just waiting for all this to install. This is a very time-consuming process, so really set yourself some time aside. This is a nice weekend project to get this done. I'll be right back. Another thing I wanted to mention too was that if you're going through and you're seeing that your shell is not doing anything, it's almost like it's frozen, just jam the enter button a few times and then it should keep moving and grooving. Oh, okay, sweet. I think we're about done. I think this is where it starts crunching. Yes. Okay, sweet. Rock on. Okay. Yes. Okay. Cool. So we are now presented with our log file, our text log here. So it's just basically saying, hey, what version of the software has been installed for our installer package here. Oh my God. like 3 to 4 hours. Oh my god. Yeah. Okay, yeah, let's dig in here real quick. Let's look at this beautiful wallpaper. Oh my goodness, look at it in all its glory. Oh, minimize that bad boy. Okay, cool. Yeah. Oh my god, there we go. Yeah. So once this is done, you know you're done. But okay, cool. Rock on. So throw this back up here. Let's just dig into this log, this text log real quick. So this is going to show what version was installed. What installer packages were used to make this image, just a basic like info events on this, you know, what things were or were not installed. It gives you like a holistic view of just what we did in the past like 4 hours. Just digging in here. What else can I show you guys? We'll go over here to our available package. Okay, available packages here. Let's go ahead and open that in Notepad. Let's just do a voice. And so with here, this is just going to show you a more like a holistic view on what tools were just installed. So again, this is not a complete list. You can add things if you wanted to, but this gives you a phenomenal start on your network forensics and your malware analysis, you know, static or, you know, dynamic. But we just have a bunch of stuff in here, and this just gives you like a bird's eye view. So if you want, like, hey, I don't know if I have this and this installed, you could just quickly dive into this. You do not have to keep this. You can get rid of it. Tools, let's see here. So as I mentioned earlier in the video, it starts, you know, compiling this list of categorized tools, and it is all done in the Windows app management at the bottom there, so you do not have to go through this file explorer. But you see here you have some like hex editors, some forensic stuff like Yara, some registry tools, back errors. So again, you don't have to go through this way. This is nice just for, like, you know, digging into it in one spot, but you could go down to the bottom and just dig into them that way. If you notice at the very bottom, the toolbar has been customized even. Like, I'm just so happy. This took forever. As a bonus for sticking around, we were over 30 minutes here. I'm actually going to show you guys how to take this to the next level. So we are going to minimize all this stuff here. Let's just dig into our browser really quick. And what we're going to do is we're going to install the Eric Zimmerman tool set. Now, this is one of the more renowned, a really nice add-on to this suite. So Eric Zimmerman was a SANS instructor, more well-established in the forensic space. Let me go ahead and jump in here really quick. So once we're in here, we're going to change this to Cyborg. I'm just kidding. Yeah, so what we're going to do here is we're going to dig into the Get Zimmerman, zoom in here really quick, Get Zimmerman tools. This is going to throw a zip to our machine here. I believe it's just a PowerShell script. So let's go ahead and just extract this. Cool. So we're going to run this as admin here. Let's just change our directory to the downloads. Now you'll see we have these cool little timestamps on our things there. So we're going to dig into the Get Zimmerman tools, list that out, and then we're just going to do get there, and then we're going to fire that off. It's going to say on script you trust, and then we're going to run it. And it's that easy. So now we're gonna have things like Timeline Explorer, a few other really nice things to add to our toolkit. We have event commands. There's just a bunch of cool stuff you can add to your FlareVM image. Just know this is one of the more popular ones out there.
Now remember, FlareVM is a very versatile platform, whether you're doing static or dynamic analysis here. Really, however you want to customize it for your specific use cases, there's just tons of options. Built-in tool suite, there's just a vast amount of things you can do. Just take advantage of the snapshot feature in your hypervisor. So if you're going through and messing with things, take good notes in that management suite to where if you do mess it up, you can always revert back to a well-known good image. Now, if you don't have a hypervisor set up for your virtual machines, you're gonna watch one of these videos right here, where we discuss setting up your own virtual lab. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.